Welcome to Terrorific, the place where it's perpetually spooky season. I'm your host, Brandon O, and we are back, baby. Season 2. Season motherfucking 2. We made it. And this is episode 11 overall. And fun fact, according to Google AI, roughly 17% of podcasts have more than 10 episodes. So this is now in the top 17%. But if I keep reading, it also says a significant 44% have less than 3 episodes, while 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. So we have 17%, 44%, and 90%. Something about this math is not quite mathing, but fuck it, we're gonna roll with it. Now, if you follow the show on Instagram at Terrorific Podcast or subscribe on YouTube at Terrorific Podcast, you may have seen that this offseason I ventured into some videos, showed my face, and these videos were quick, probably like 2 minutes long tops. And those shits took me like 6 hours to edit, like just absolutely a ridiculous amount of time. So the podcast itself, these full episodes, I considered maybe trying my hand at making them video oriented, but fuck all of that. I am not about to spend 29 hours editing some shit. Okay, we're just going to keep it audio. I probably have a face for audio anyway, so it works out for everybody involved. If you're here again after season 1, welcome back. If you're here for the very first time, welcome. Each season is going to be self-contained, so that's perfectly acceptable. But I do advise going back to listening to season 1, just because it was pretty fun. I went through the first 10 films of the Saw series, crowned the most diabolical trap of them all. I won't tell you which one was the winner, just in case you are new. In related news, earlier this week on Monday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, that day turned out to be a little bit unlucky for Saw fans because Saw 11 has reportedly been canceled. There is some kind of beef going on between the producers and the studio, or the writers and the producers, some shit, I don't know. But, I mean, Saw 10 honestly was probably my favorite one in the entire series. Maybe 1B to the first Saw's 1A. But it was a great entry. And so I was kind of excited to see what direction the story would go with Saw 11. But looks like that won't be happening. So let's pour one out for the Saw franchise. Maybe it'll be revitalized. I mean, they did kill Jigsaw in Saw 3 and made 7 more movies. So I wouldn't be surprised if it finds a way to resurrect. But onward and upward we go. Terrorific Season 2. Or as I like to call it, Terrorbnb. The theme is unwanted houseguests and horrible hosts. Now, as a setting in horror movies, houses can be very effective. You have the tight, confined spaces. You have the dark corners and the dark basements and attics. You have the locked doors and the creaky doors, creaky wood floors. And more importantly, from my perspective, your home is where you're supposed to feel the safest, where you're supposed to be most comfortable, and where you can be the most vulnerable. So the thought of having someone or something come into your safe space and just fucking shit up, that's a terrifying thought. And it's made for some very good horror movies with some very effective suspense and jump scares. So this season, I'll be breaking down 10 horror films, all dealing with fear in the home and pitting them against one another to ultimately decide at which one I would spend 24 hours. So let's get it poppin'. Back in the very first episode of season 1, I mentioned how the origin of my horror movie fandom really is propped upon 2 pillars. Number 1, Halloween Resurrection. Seeing Busta Rhymes beat the shit out of Michael Myers while he calls him a chicken fried motherfucker. That completely disarmed a character that I had been petrified of for multiple years. And number 2, as I got older and started paying attention to the people who are actually making movies, the writers, directors, producers, studios behind them. There was a horror movie that I watched in a dirty, smelly dollar theater that afterwards I was like, man, this was some scary shit. Who made this? That director was James Wan, and that movie is where we begin season 2, Insidious. My Insidious dollar theater experience genuinely is a core memory for me. First of all, the seat that I was in smelled straight up like piss. It was like somebody ate asparagus for 30 days straight, came to the dollar theater for 30 days straight, and pissed in that seat for 30 days straight and just let it marinate. Just thinking to themselves, one day someone's going to sit their ass right here and they are just going to get obliterated by this funk. And that's exactly what happened. I was dying. It was unbearable until the movie started. And once the movie started, I forgot completely about the piss-soaked seat I was sitting in because the movie was so engaging. It was so gripping. I was scared as fuck, like legitimately. Insidious is kind of heavy on the jump scares, and all those shits were making me jump, son. It was wild. And the crazy thing is, I had seen the trailer for it. So like I knew what some of the jump scares were going to be, and somehow I'm still jumping at this shit. And that's rare, especially for a PG-13 movie. To be able to pull off this feeling of just like dread that was also suitable for teenagers. It's like, I don't know how they did it, but I love that shit. Now, Insidious was released back in 2010. It was directed and co-edited by James Wan. It was also written by Leigh Whannell. And Leigh Whannell had a supporting role in the film as the character Specs. This marked the definitive return of the Saw boys, baby. James Wan stated in an interview with Entertainment Weekly that while he was quote-unquote very proud of Saw, he also felt that the film, specifically the violence and the gore of it, put some people off and made them hesitant to work with him. So Insidious was made to prove a point that James Wan was capable of making a good, scary horror film without all the violence and gore. Again, this is a PG-13 movie. It's very rare that there's a good horror film that's rated PG-13. But Insidious managed to pull that off. And a lot of the credit for that goes to the atmosphere that was built by its creepy ass music. The score was composed by Joseph Bashara, who did double duty by also playing the role of the film's primary antagonist, the red-faced demon. James Wan and Leigh Whannell already proved with the very first Saw that they could scare audiences just by having two dudes sitting together in a room. Well, now you give them a whole house to work with. 2 houses, in fact. Combine that with Bashara's score, his use of these haunting strings and these pangs of discord and disharmony, and you have this perfect mix of ingredients to craft this fear-inducing environment. And they did it for cheap. Well, relatively cheap. The film had a budget of $1.5 million and it grossed approximately $100.1 million, which is an ROI of about 6,673%. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating from critics of 66% and 62% from audiences. The critics' consensus reads, quote, "Aside from a shaky final act, Insidious is a very scary and a very fun haunted house thrill ride." Now for the OGs, you know the drill, but if you're new here, this is the point where we get into the film in more detail. So for the first time in season 2, consider this your spoiler alert. Because this is the very first episode, Insidious is not going to have an opponent in the 24-hour stay competition. However, In anticipation of potentially needing tiebreakers down the line, I've devised a system to count specific moments in the films that I'll call BFT moments. These are moments that either made me think to myself or audibly say, bro, fuck that. And they don't need to be things that are like super scary. It's just about being unnerving. Those moments that lead up to, the jump scares or whatever, the things that build up the suspense, that sense of dread or feeling of impending doom. So if something's creepy, it's a BFT moment. And so by my count, Insidious had 32 BFT moments. I'm not going to run through all 32, but let's break down some of the more higher ranking ones. But first, let's get some of the exposition out of the way. So the plot overview of Insidious is as follows. Quote, parents take drastic measures when it seems their new home is haunted and their comatose son is possessed by a malevolent entity. So the parents are Josh and Renee. The possessed son, his name is Dalton. There's 2 other kids in the family, Foster and Callie. And then the psychic that they call in to assist, her name is Elise. So these are the main players. Okay, so BFT highlight number 1. Renee is downstairs playing the piano. She's home alone, or she's home with baby Callie, but baby Callie is upstairs taking a nap. So Renee has the baby monitor with her. All of a sudden, she starts hearing some mysterious man's voice on the baby monitor. And it's reasonable to think that maybe there was just some signal interference occurring. Okay, sure. So she waits at the bottom of the stairs for a while, just listening with a confused look on her face. Eventually, the voice literally yells on the monitor, so she runs upstairs. While she's up there, she grabs the baby, checks the closet, doesn't see anything. Okay, moves on. Now, here's what I would have done in that situation. First of all, if I hear some eerie ass whispering on my baby monitor, seemingly coming from my child's room, the very first thing I'm doing is running upstairs immediately. But I'm not running upstairs with just my dick in my hand, which is what Renee did in the situation. She did not grab anything, any kind of weapon or improvised weapon to potentially defend herself and or her child with. She just went upstairs empty-handed. Okay, cool. Goes into the room, doesn't see anybody. Picks up the baby, checks the closet for an intruder while holding the baby in her arms. Like, if someone happened to be in that closet, ghost or otherwise, what is the best case scenario in that situation? Like, are they going to be polite and say, hey, I see that you're holding a baby. Why don't you set said baby down and then we can commence with the fright? Have some awareness, please. BFT highlight number 2. After Dalton has fallen into his inexplicable coma, his little bro Foster tells his parents that he's scared of Dalton and wants to change his bedroom because, quote, he doesn't like it when he walks around at night. I don't know about you, but if someone were to tell me that my comatose child was allegedly walking around at night, what I would not do is just tuck that person back into bed and say, go back to sleep. I'm going to have some questions, some follow-up questions. Like, how often does this happen? Have you seen it or only heard it? Are you sure that you're awake? Like, we need to have a dialogue about this, because that is some creepy ass shit. And especially after all the other shit that's been occurring in the house, to just brush this under the rug and be like, fuck it. He just has an overactive imagination. Dog, what are we even doing right now? BFT moment number 3. It's kind of a chain of events. So the family is at home late at night. Suddenly there's some banging on the front door. So Josh goes down there to investigate. and doesn't see anybody on the porch. And for some mysterious reason, the porch light also won't turn on. And so Josh is like peering his face all through, all on the glass with the flashlight and shit. Again, if somebody happened to be there, I don't think putting your face right at the point of entry is the smartest move. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, while Josh is down there doing his stuff, Renee goes to check on little baby Callie in her room and sees a ghostly face in the window. So she starts freaking out. Understandably so. Josh goes back upstairs, but first he latches and locks the front door. And while he's up there, Renee's, explaining what she just saw, and the alarm starts wailing. So now Josh runs back downstairs in, a frenzy and sees the front door wide open after previously locking and latching it. So now he's a little bit distressed, I would say. But he at least shows some awareness in this situation because he grabs a fire poker to defend himself with. So good job, Josh. I'm proud of you, buddy. But BFT highlight number 4 is probably one of the iconic moments in modern horror movie history, I would say. And that's the kitchen scene where the red-faced demon pops up behind Josh's head. Like, this jump scare was just fantastic. It was so well executed because it was pretty unexpected. Like, up until this point, the red-faced demon, we hadn't seen him. We had just seen him in like scribbles, child drawings, and, shadows and shit. But now just randomly having story time in the kitchen and this demonic face pops up right in front of you. Bro, I jumped hard as fuck. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, there was nearly a 31st stream of piss added to my chair in the Dollar Theater that day. The crazy thing, though, is that scene is actually in the trailer. It flashes really quickly, but it's there. And so I should have seen it coming. Maybe subconsciously I knew it was happening. But ever since then, though, that is the reason that I no longer watch trailers for horror films, because that jump scare, as effective as it was, maybe it could have been even more effective if I had no idea at all that it was coming or that it was in the movie. BFT highlight number 5 is also an iconic moment, in my opinion. And that's when Elise the psychic drops an all-time bar on Josh and Renee's head. She says, quote, "It's not the house that's haunted, it's your son." Bro, I wouldn't even know what to say to that shit, though. Like, I'd just be like, okay, I guess we're fucked. Like, what do I do? Like, can I ground him? Tell him to stop bringing ghosts home? Like, we raised you better than that? What do you say to something like that? Your son is haunted. Okay, well, thanks for coming by. Elise then goes on to further explain that Dalton is like a child prodigy when it comes to astral projection. He's been doing it for a long time in his sleep, didn't even know it, and that he inherited this trait or this ability from his daddy. So if you're Renee, are you like kind of giving mans a little bit of side eye? Like, son, you got our child out here. You got him bringing demons into the house because of your shit? Like, good to know. Like, is Josh in the doghouse now? Does the doghouse even have any effect on Josh anymore? Or can he just like astral project out of it? There's a lot of questions here that need answers. BFT highlight number 6 was when Elise performed the seance wearing some creepy ass mask, looked like a gas mask, right? Now during this seance, she's thinning the wall or the barrier between the living world and the ghost world or the astral plane, whatever. And so all the ghosts just like come to the house and just start partying, right? Dalton still in his coma, suddenly appears at the table next to them during the seance. He's like being controlled by the red-faced demon like a puppet. Kid like pimp slaps a dude clear across the room, right? And then one of the ghosts barges into the room, like pins Renee up against the wall and like licks her face. Son, how disrespectful is that? Not only for Renee, but if you're Josh, you're just sitting there watching your wife get her face licked. And to his credit, he tried to buck up or whatever. But it's a fucking ghost. I mean, dude had like abnormal, paranormal, supernatural strength, whatever. And you can't do anything with that. So you just gotta get punked. And if you're Renee, my goodness, that is horrible. BFT highlight number 7 was when Josh's mom is explaining how Josh was haunted by the old lady ghost when he was a kid, and how every time she took a picture of him, the ghost lady was in the background and she would get closer and closer to Josh with each picture. Absolutely creepy as fuck. But what's silly about it though, mom took like 13 pictures, bro. Like, how many times do you need to see this ghost creeping closer and closer before you're like, yeah, I should probably stop doing this? Like, the very last one she took, the ghost lady's fingertips were like right by Josh's ear or shoulder or something. Like, 6 pictures ago, I think we got the idea that we should stop doing this, but we're still going here. And you're surprised that she's now super duper close. Kind of explains a little bit about Josh and why he needed like 14 occurrences of hauntings to finally be like, yeah, you know what, Renee? You're right. I think we do have a ghost problem. But my final BFT highlight, number 8, and this one's not scary in the slightest, but I did say, bro, fuck that, while I was laughing when I saw it. So after Josh went into the further to go retrieve Dalton, and they're running through all these hungry ghosts trying to get back into their bodies and steal life from them, they get into the house, the astral house, and Josh had been carrying Dalton for a while. So he sets him down and Dalton takes off like, Dad, come on. And Josh is like hunched over, like winded from sprinting through this ghost land. Like, bro, how out of shape do you have to be that even your spirit is struggling to breathe? Like, you don't even have any lungs, and yet your cardio is slacking. How embarrassing is that, bro? Like, and your son's just watching this like, God damn, this is who came to rescue me? This out of shape bastard? Like, I hope I'm not like that when I grow up. And that right there is why I love horror movies so much. In a world of outlandish things happening, somehow the most outlandish thing is something so like tiny and unimportant. But it's hilarious and it's fun. But anyway, as I mentioned earlier, since this currently is the only Terrorbnb home, it is the winner by default for the 24-hour stay. But we'll see what contender number 2 has to say about that. I haven't yet decided in which order I'm going to run through these movies. Kind of just going off of vibes right now. So, we'll see. But in the meantime, don't forget to check out the show on Instagram, on YouTube. Follow, subscribe, like, comment, rate on your podcast listening vehicle of choice. And remember, always keep it spooky.